Hey folks, hope you're doing good. Right, this is a bit of a different video. We're not going to be looking at any bands or anything like this. And I'm doing it totally off the cuff. I haven't planned it out too much. I've got some talking points, but I might end up rambling, as you know I can do, but I'll try and stay on course. But what I want to talk to you about today, and this is mostly towards bedroom bands, one-man artists, guitarists, bassists as well, but not really so much for vocalists. And if you're just a drummer, but there is going to be a bit of stuff about vocals as well in here as well. But this is mostly for the guitarists and some bassists, people doing that. Right, what I want to tell you is, and this may sound a bit preachy, but I want to stress this point because it's made a big difference to my creative process, my making music. And I think it's useful information, even if I say so myself. And I'd like to see if other guys think it's useful. And if it is, it'll kickstart some creative stuff for them. Now, what am I going to talk about? What I'm going to tell you to do is when you're a guitarist, whether you own a bunch of expensive amps, if you've spent all your savings on the latest kind of Friedman amp or something really nice, I'm going to tell you that whenever you practice your guitar, unless you want to just play loud through your amps and you jam into some songs or something like that, but if you're trying to be creative, if you're trying to make some songs, if you're trying to jam out some riff ideas, anything like that, when you're at your guitar, I'm going to tell you, you always want to play your guitar through a DAW. Now, that doesn't matter if you use a digital tone, but I am going to recommend that. But if you want to mic up your amps and you've always got the ability to have your amps mic'd up, then this same thing applies to you, just that you've always got your amps mic'd. But I want you to always play your guitar through your DAW. Okay, and why am I going to say this? Right. First of all, the main reason I'm saying this is because you're going to catch your ideas, catch those riffs that you come up with when you're just jamming out and you think, this sounds like a nice little riff. And then by the end of the jam, you've forgot it, you've moved on, or you wake up the next day and you pick up your guitar again and it's totally out of your mind. And I'm going to tell you that all of those good riff ideas that you thought, hey, this sounds all right at the time, are lost opportunities to make a song because you didn't record it. And if you'd been playing through your DAW, if you'd hit record, if you'd had the ability to just hit spacebar and that started to record what you were doing, I guarantee you that you will get more ideas down, and those good ideas that come through will suddenly turn into songs or ideas for songs or the start of a song or something like that. You can add some drums to it quickly and easily, get some context for the music, and suddenly you're creating songs, pieces of music, stuff you wouldn't have normally done just because you sat at your computer whilst you're jamming your guitar. Okay, well, I'll go into this a bit more detail. What do I mean? Well, everyone who's a musician nowadays, I would recommend that they get into mixing and doing stuff like that, recording themselves and being a bit of a bedroom producer, because there's never been a better time to do that. All the software's available very readily online for free, for small prices or for big prices if you've got big bucks. There's so much you can do with it once you get your head around the program. Limitless opportunities for creativity. You don't have to just make metal music. You can make any kind of music you like, any kind of sound you like. You could do kind of atmospheric stuff, ambient stuff, whatever. Whatever your brain kind of thinks up, you can do once you've got your head around using the recording piece of software. And it does take a bit of time to learn. There is a bit of a learning curve. Your first mix is going to sound like garbage. Expect that. And even your second and your third one's not going to sound too good either. But once you've got your head around what you're doing, not only will you be a musician that's able to play your instrument, play your guitar and stuff like that, but you'd also be a composer and a producer as well. And as the time goes by, all of those things are going to improve all together. And what that will mean eventually is that you're actually a very versatile musician who can do lots of things and who can get their ideas down just like that, really quick. You know when an idea is going to hit, you hear it in your ear, you record it, and suddenly you're making a song. Happened to me now. I started doing this. I always play my guitar through my DAW. I've got my own digital tone, which I like on there, so I don't have to plug in an amp or any of that stuff. Don't have to piss off the neighbors. I can have it at whatever volume I like, and it still sounds like it's roaring through the amp, which isn't the case with valve amps and things like that. And I now only use digital software for all of my guitar tones. I don't even own an amp. I've got no interest in owning an amp. Amps are cool, they've got cool sounds, but so's digital, and I find digital far more versatile, far more personal, because I can do so many things to affect and craft my own personal tone, which is what I have done. I've got many tones now, actually, and I'm literally the only person in the world who's got that tone, right? Now, lots of people own Marshall amps, lots of people own, all the different kinds of amps you can get out there, and they've all got a similar tone because they're all using the same amp. But when you get into software tones, because there's so many different pieces of software involved to get your final tone, and because all of those have got so many different knobs and dials that you can tweak, literally no one in the world, it's statistically impossible, will have exactly the same tone as you once you've crafted your own tone. I find that very cool. But a lot of guitarists and kind of people who are a bit more traditional aren't on board with that yet, guys. But at some point, you're going to have to get on board, because I'm telling you now, this is the future of music. Right. Once you've got your DAW, you know what you're doing, you figured that out, okay? We'll get my DAW up on the screen so you can have a look at it. I use Mixcraft. This is what Mixcraft looks like when you first load it up. Now, what I'm going to recommend that you do here is set up a template. And that just means that as soon as you load up your DAW, and I know Mixcraft does this, but I expect all the others do it as well, because this is a fairly standard program. You'll have set up your template, which will have a guitar track with your tone ready to record. So you just hit the start button and you're ready to go. So you load up your DAW, you click load template, you press OK, and I'm good to go. If I had my guitar on me now and it was plugged in, I'm plugged into an amp. I've got my tone here. This is how I crafted my tone. As you can see, I've used a bunch of VSTs to get this tone in the end. That's why I say it's very, very personal to me. No one in the world has got this same setup as me, unless they've watched my videos where I've told them how to do it. So my tone's ready to go. If I was playing my guitar now, I'd just be playing my guitar with my tone, nice heavily distorted tone, and I'm jamming out. Now say I decide, hey, I'm coming up with something nice now, got a good riff here. Okay, you just hit the record button, right? And you're recording. So then you instantly record that riff that you've got. And suddenly you've already got a riff recorded. Now you're going to want to double track it then and get a nice tight performance and all the rest of it. But the idea that you had while you were jamming out, which if you were just jamming on your amp and not recording, might just get lost. You might think, yeah, that's a cool riff, but then suddenly you're playing a different riff, or you start playing a song that you like or something like that, and that riff's gone. And that idea and that creativity has been lost. And I'm telling you now, that's unfortunate, because it's those times when you think to yourself, when you're jamming, hey, this sounds all right. Those are the good ideas. Those are the ideas that you want to record, even if you never actually happen to do anything with them. Just record them. Get that idea recorded so that it's somewhere you can come back to it at a later date if you want, or just keep it, just as that was a cool riff, but I don't really want to make a song out of it. So always record if you've come across a good riff. Now, if you're very, very good guitarist and pretty much all you do is good riffs, or you're an improvised guy who likes to improvise solo stuff and you're always working on your technique and your tapping and all of this stuff, and you want to increase your ability, another good reason to record yourself is because you actually want to listen back to yourself and hear how you sound. Because when you're playing the guitar and when you're listening to the recording back, your ear actually hears two totally different things. your brain's involved in trying to work it out whilst you're actually playing it, but once you're listening to it, your brain is just listening to it. And what you'll find is, particularly if you're an intermediate guitarist, or a beginner for sure, is that what you think you're hearing and what's actually being played can be two different things. It's a bit like singers where they're singing in the shower and they think they're in tune and they think it all sounds good, but if they actually heard a recording of themselves, it sounds bumfuck terrible, and they're totally out and flat and all the rest of it. That's just the way our brains work. So what you actually need to do is record yourself. So say you're working on a new riff, you're trying to figure out a new tap-in part, a sweep or something like that, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm starting to get this down. Record yourself, listen back to it. Are you getting it down? Is it every time that you hit the fifth string, it sounds a bit dud, so you want to focus in on that? Are you creating too much noise? Are you not palm mute enough? Things like that. Those are all the kind of things you want to be listening out for with your ear when you listen back to your recording, because you won't have picked that up whilst you're actually playing. So that's another good reason to always record yourself. Now, if you're one of these guys as well that likes to do long improvisations, you just put on a backing track or something like that, and you're just noodling away for an hour, trying out all your different runs and things like that. Again, just at the start of that jam, as long as you've got enough disk space on your computer, hit record right at the start of your improvisation, record the whole thing, and listen back to it once you've done it. Because you might again find, that you might have got a section in there that just sounds really, really sick, and you think, shit, that sounded all right, but you were improvising it. It was just off the top of your head at the time, so it wasn't, stuck in your head. But you think, yeah, I could work with that. I could add a bit more to this, or it gives you more inspiration to do more to it. So you cut that section of your improvisation out, and that might turn into a very, very nice solo or something like that. That's another good reason to always record yourself. And not only that, once you've done it, go back, listen to it all, and hear for the good parts, but also be critical of yourself. Use some constructive criticism and listen for the parts where you can improve, because you always want to be trying to improve, your guitaring, and fixing the parts where it's lacking. So there's tons and tons of good reasons to do that. As I say, once you've got here, you set up nice and quick. I'll get us back onto the big screen. And it's very, very easy. It's as easy as literally turning on your amp and getting going. And if you use a bunch of pedals and things like that, that takes far longer to plug all of that in and turn them on and make sure it's working right and this and that. So it's one of the kind of things where you just really get quickly going. Now, a good tip that I heard is you should always have your guitar within 4 seconds reach of wherever it is that you normally sit. My guitar, as you can see, is behind me here, but I've also got one just up on the wall right there. So what the reason for that is if your guitar's in a different room, if you've got a music room, but you're all usually sat in the living room, you might get the inspiration to play your guitar, just off the cuff, just a random inspiration. Oh, I wouldn't mind just playing my guitar, but you think, can't be bothered because it's in the other room. I got to plug my amp in, get it warmed up, all the rest of it. It's late, it's too noisy, whatever. I don't want to piss off the neighbors. And because of that, you're less likely to pick up your guitar as often as you get the inspiration to pick up your guitar than if it's right to hand, just right there, you pick it up and you're jamming. You might only jam for a minute, you might only jam for 5 minutes, you might end up jamming for an hour. But as long as the guitar is right to hand, the chances of you picking it up and actually starting to play it and get creative and not just procrastinate and think, can't be bothered, is much more likely if your guitar is close to hand. So think about that, guys. If you've got a music room, that's cool. But if you're not sat in your music room all day, make sure you've got another guitar in your living room or wherever you sit that's close to hand that you can just pick up the second that you get the inspiration to. And as I say, try and have that always plugged into the DAW, because you might think, oh, hang on, I've got a quick riff in my head. You grab your guitar because it's right there, you plug it in, you press OK, you're straight into the DAW, you hit record, and suddenly you're recording a riff just because you had a 2 second inspiration in your mind to think, oh, I'll pick up my guitar. And next thing you know, you're starting to build a song up as well. So that's cool. Now, I'm going to go on for a bit. I hope people are on board and watching the rest of this video because I am going on, but I'm trying to stay on course as best I can. This is something I feel pretty passionate about, and I really want to stress this point as much as I can because I've found that it's made a big difference in my music making and my creativity. So let's see where we are on this little list I've put together. Yeah. So the one point that I really want to stress more than ever is that you always catch the ideas that you normally miss. And I know that for a fact now, that I used to sit at my guitar, play my guitar, and I'd come up with an idea and I'd think, yeah, this is good. And you feel it, when you're jamming your guitar and something good comes out, you get into it, you feel it, it feels good. Your fingers just know where to go, and you're really getting into it. It's at those points is when you want to be hitting record. And if you're just already playing through your DAW, it's as simple as a single button press and you've got that idea down. So that is really the most important thing that I want to stress. Now, there's some other upsides of doing this that aren't just going to be getting better at guitar and B, getting your ideas down, which is the most important part. What's going to happen is because you're now using this audio software, you're using a DAW, you're figuring it out, you're double tracking your guitars, you're working out different mixing techniques, you're hearing with your ears what you think sounds good to you, you've crafted your own tone and gone through a bunch of software and VSTs to get to that point. And by that point, you've got a pretty good idea what you're doing in a DAW. And you're going to start putting some drums down, which will add context to your music. You might have some drum loops already set up in your template, so that as soon as you load up your DAW, you've already got some drum beats that you can play along to. If you're one of those kind of guys that gets a lot of inspiration from a drum beat, which is a good way of writing music, you just put a drum beat down, and that helps you play your guitar and put context and rhythm to the music that you're doing, instead of just playing it on its own. So that's another good thing that can do. It will speed up your music making, your ideas, and your kind of composition process. And you'll suddenly find that you're making music very, very quickly. We've had guys on the bands, they make about 10 tracks a day, some of these guys. Because once you've got into it, once you've figured out what you're doing, if you're a person with a lot of ideas, if you've always got an idea and a riff rolling around in your head, but you're not getting them down on the regular, this way you're just going to have tons and tons of ideas recorded. I mean, I've got folders of stuff, of riffs that probably won't ever get used, but they sounded good to my ear at the time. I just recorded them down, and every so often I'll go back and listen to them. I think, yeah, that's a good riff. It's not something I necessarily want to make a whole song out of, but it's nice that I got that riff down, I remembered it, and it wasn't just a fleeting thought in my head that passed me by. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, what's going to happen as time goes on is you're going to get better at mixing, you're going to get better at composing, you're going to get better at using effects like reverbs and delays and compressions and all the different things like that. And suddenly you'll find, although it does take a period of time, you're actually quite a decent little bedroom composer, mixer, engineer. And if you're in a band, you can say to the band, look, record your part and I'll mix us, and we'll see what mixing our own album sounds like. And again, that will make your album and your sound and your tone very personal to you because you've figured it out for yourself. I've done it with my own band. My band sounds like my band because I've used things that no other band is using in those exact same ways. So there's no band that sounds like my band because I'm not using anything that anyone else is using in exactly the same way. I've not just mic'd up a Marshall amp or something like that, a PV amp. I've crafted my own tone. I've crafted my own drum sounds. I've figured out all my own mixing and things like that. So my music is 100% personal to me, and I really, really dig that. Now, I've gone on enough here. I appreciate if you've made it to the end of this video, because even I know I've gone on a lot here. I don't know how long that has been. It doesn't tell me, but yeah, 20 minutes it looks like. That's not too bad. I thought it was about 30 minutes. So I hope you've stuck with me through this, guys. And I just really, really want to just stress this point one more time. When you're playing through your DAW, when you've got the ability to instantly record yourself, all those ideas that normally get lost in the jam, that you think are cool at the time, but you just don't record because you haven't got the ability to do it this easily. Those ideas are great ideas, and they're lost gems that get just lost because they drift out your mind, and that's them gone. So if you want to be creative, if you want to get your ideas down, always play your guitar through your DAW. That's my piece of advice. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Hope that was interesting, and I hope that some people are going to take this on board. And if you do, and you start to find that you're getting a lot of ideas down, suddenly you're writing a bunch more songs than you used to, and things are starting to flow, let me know, because that'll be good to know that this information has been worthwhile, and I've passed it on to other musicians, and it's meant that more music gets made, more creativity gets out there, and you give yourself the ability to just create music whenever you like, and very, very easily. So I hope that was useful, guys. That's going to be it for this video. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you around. Bye.